Hello, welcome to another episode of Sewing in Scripture. Today, we're going to be going over Esther chapters 5 and 6. Now, if you've been watching these videos and you notice I'm wearing the same clothes every week for the past, 4 weeks? It's because I'm recording these all on the same day. So it's called batching. This way I can just get them all out and I can get ahead and not have to worry about them. But it also means that I am tripping over my tongue a lot because I am doing a lot of talking today. So if you see me tripping over things, there are some really, really hard words. I'm having to learn how to pronounce some Greek and some Hebrew words, and I'm not the best at it. So bear with me, please. I ask for your grace. I'm trying very hard. So today we're going through the book of Esther, chapters 5 and 6. So if you want to go ahead and turn to your Bible app or pull out your physical Bible and open up chapter 5 in the book of Esther. And while you're looking that up, we're going to go ahead and again listen to this testimony from our sponsor, Fox the Patriot. So I was just at the grocery store and I was at the checkout, and the lady, the cashier behind the register, stopped me and she said, "Oh my gosh." She goes, "I have to tell you something." Okay. She said 20 years ago, she went to a church and she didn't know Jesus at the time. She didn't know anything about, she knew the basics that most people have an idea about, but she really didn't know God. And she said that she was praying, she was walking through the church and she was praying, "God, please show me a sign that there's somebody out there for me, that I belong somewhere." And she said she rounded the corner and she had this vision. She was shown this. 20 years ago, she saw this. Now, this is, I designed this not too long ago, like within the past 5 months. But she said that was the image I saw. And God was telling me, I am the Lion of Judah. And there is someone for everyone. I am for everyone. And she felt just so compelled that she had to come up and share that story with me about how she found God and how she has found peace through Christ, just having the knowledge that God is the Lion of Judah, that this is the Lion of Judah, that this is, the Lion and the Lamb. It's all about God. It's all about Christ. It's all about Him, and He is for everyone. We are not alone. And that just really hit me. So once again, if you're enjoying this content, please go to foxthepatriot.com. They do help support the channel and keep us running. Also, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, hit that notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever new videos drop, and leave me a comment below, even if it's just to say hi. So now let's get into the book of Esther, chapter 5. So, as usual, we're going to do a brief review of what we covered so far from chapters 1 through 4. Let's do that recap now. In a drunken state, King Xerxes has banished Queen Vashti for disobedience because she wouldn't come to him when he called. Esther is then brought to the palace, along with many other of all the good-looking virgins of the kingdom, of the empire, to be chosen, to be sifted through and determined if they're wife material. Esther impresses the king and is chosen to be the queen. Mordecai, who is Esther's cousin and guardian, overhears a plot to assassinate the king and tells Esther. Mordecai's name is then written in the king's chronicles as someone deserving of reward. Haman is given honor, but Mordecai refuses to bow down to him. Now, Haman is one of King Xerxes' highest officials. Haman convinces the king that there are people in the empire who need to be exterminated and is given the king's signet ring to initiate this process. Mordecai asks Esther to go to the king and beg for the lives of her people. So at this time, she's apprehensive about this. Mordecai has now convinced her to go before the king, and she has asked him to fast with her for 3 days and nights. And at the end of that time, she will go to the king. So let's see where we are in chapter 5. On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace, in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the hall, facing the entrance. When he saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was pleased with her and held out to her the gold scepter that was in his hand. So Esther approached and touched the tip of the scepter. So he has extended the scepter, and she is touching it to accept it, to say, yes, I accept your grace. Then the king asked, "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, I will give it to you." "If it pleases the king," replied Esther, "let the king, together with Haman, come today to a banquet I have prepared for him." "Bring Haman at once," the king said, "so that we may do what Esther asks." So the king and Haman went to the banquet Esther had prepared. As they were drinking wine, the king asked Esther, "Now, what is your petition? I will give it to you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be granted." Esther replied, "My petition and my request is this. If the king regards me with favor, and if it pleases the king to grant my petition and fulfill my request, let the king and Haman have come tomorrow to the banquet. I will prepare for them. Then I will answer the king's question." It was providential that Esther did not express her desire to the king at this first banquet, since events in chapter 6, which are coming up, took place between the banquets, making it much easier for Esther to expose Haman at the second banquet. Haman went out that day happy and in high spirits. But when he saw Mordecai at the king's gate and observed that he neither rose nor showed fear in his presence, he was filled with rage against Mordecai. Nevertheless, Haman restrained himself and went home, calling together his friends and Zeresh, his wife. Haman boasted to them about his vast wealth, his many sons, and all the ways the king had honored him and how he had elevated him above other nobles and officials. So "I'm just so wonderful, I'm great." "And that's not all," Haman added. "I'm the only person Queen Esther invited to accompany the king to the banquet she gave. And she has invited me along with the king tomorrow. But all this gives me no satisfaction as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate." His wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Have a pole set up, reaching to a height of 50 cubits, and ask the king in the morning to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then go with the king to the banquet and enjoy yourself." This suggestion delighted Haman, and he had the pole set up. There's a bit of discrepancy between translations. So in the NIV version, it states to have a pole set up. And in the King James Version, which is the version I grew up with, it says let a gallows be made. So there's a bit of a difference in execution style there. But either way, preparation for Mordecai's execution was formulated in this moment. There is a sinister nature to Haman finding a great joy in the thought of disposing of Mordecai so that he could then have a more rewarding and joyful experience at the next banquet with the king and queen. So I can't have fun unless I know this guy is dead, is kind of the mindset here. Kind of crazy. So that was chapter 5, which we can see things are really starting to heat up. Now let's see how things progress in chapter 6. That night the king could not sleep. So he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the record of his reign, to be brought in and read to him. Kind of like a bedtime story. It was found recorded there that Mordecai had exposed Bigtha and Teresh, two of the king's officers who had guarded the doorway, who had conspired to assassinate King Xerxes. "What honor and recognition has Mordecai received for this?" the king asked. "Nothing has been done for him," his attendants answered. Now, the Book of Chronicles was the source from which the king's honors list was drawn. And as a rule, special services were promptly rewarded. So usually, something was reward worthy. It was done right at that moment. But for whatever reason, it didn't happen. Since Mordecai's good deed in saving the king's life had been overlooked, something must be done quickly. The king said, "Who is in the court?" Now Haman had just entered the outer court of the palace to speak to the king about impaling Mordecai on the pole he had set up for him. His attendants answered, "Haman is standing in the court." "Bring him in," the king ordered. When Haman entered, the king asked him, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor? Now Haman thought to himself, who is there that the king would rather honor than me? So he answered the king, for the man the king delights to honor, have them bring a royal robe the king has worn, and a horse the king has ridden, one with a royal crest placed on its head. Then let the robe and horse be entrusted to one of the king's most noble princes. Let them robe the man the king delights to honor, and lead him on the horse through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. Go at once, the king commanded Haman. Get the robe and the horse, and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Do not neglect anything you have recommended. Can you imagine the look on Haman's face? So Haman got the robe and the horse. He robed Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city streets, proclaiming before him, this is what is done for the man the king delights to honor. And could you imagine his tone at that point? It probably wasn't the same that he was pitching this to with the king. Afterward, Mordecai returned to the king's gate, but Haman rushed home with his head covered in grief and told Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends everything that had happened to him. His advisors and his wife Zeresh said to him, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin. So they're saying, well, you can't do anything to him now. The king's already made a big deal about him. While they were still talking with him, the king's eunuchs arrived and hurried Haman away to the banquet Esther had prepared. So Haman's in a bit of a pickle now because he's set up these gallows or this pole or whichever version you're reading. He's ready to execute Mordecai. He expressly went to the king for the permission to execute Mordecai. And what happened? The king is like, I need your advice on this. And thinking he's talking about himself, Haman says to do all these wonderful things for this person and then finds out, oh, he means he's talking about Mordecai. And on top of this revelation, he also has to be the one who takes Mordecai out into the streets and sings his praises in front of everybody. So it's not just a between him and the king and Mordecai type of thing. Like everybody in Susa knows how great Mordecai is, and Haman had to be the one to sing his praises. That had to have been extremely humiliating. So his family's like, don't do anything to Mordecai because that could be really, really bad for you, for all of us. That just don't do it. Just scrap that plan altogether. So it's interesting to see where things are developing here. So I hope you're enjoying these Bible studies. And if you want to, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell because YouTube isn't going to just automatically tell you when the videos come out. You have to hit that notification bell and let them know, hey, tell me when this is coming out. So leave me a comment and be sure to share this with the people. You never know who needs a word from God today. And this is a fantastic story. We're getting into the good parts now. So please come back and join us next week. We will be continuing our story, chapters 7 and 8 in the book of Esther. And just have a great, blessed, wonderful week. And we'll see you next Friday.